Hi, it's Carolyn. I'm here to help you learn how to bake and decorate amazing cakes. And in this video, I am giving you my list of 10 things that people do that drive me a little crazy. And I want to put a disclaimer out there. I love my job and I love what I do, but sometimes people just be peopling and it can drive you a little insane. And I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, albeit I am a little bit. But like any job, if you're a hairdresser, there's things that bother you about people. And if you're a server, there's always something. So I'm trying to put a lighthearted twist to this. I'm not mad or angry. I'm just a little annoyed. So let's start with number one. And I've said this in so many videos before, and I feel like I just have to keep repeating it until people get it. And that is when people want to order a certain number of tiers, not taking into consideration how many servings it will be. We get asked all the time as cake decorators, I just want 2 tiers to feed 100 people. It is going to look stupid. It's going to be short and it's going to be wide and the proportions are going to be off. It's not going to look right. To show you an example, I have some cake dummies. This is what a 2-tier cake to feed about 100 people is going to look like. If you put a topper in the middle, the topper is going to be small. There's too much space here. It's just not going to look good. And I said this in another video recently, the number of tiers, at least for me, doesn't necessarily increase or decrease the price. It's the detail in the design. It's how long am I taking to decorate the cake that determines the price. So instead of 2 tiers to feed 100, this 4-tier cake to feed 100 is going to look so much better. And on the flip side, I also get people sending me pictures of one of my cakes like this and saying they needed to feed 5 people. Like, all right, that's 5 cupcakes stacked on top of each other. I have no idea how I'm going to do that to serve 5. So what I usually do is just ask people, what is it about this cake that you like and would want on your cake? To feed 5, the smallest cake I make is 6-inch. It's going to feed like 12 to 16. Let's try to figure out what we can do for 1 tier. So just a public service announcement, we as cake decorators know what is going to be the most aesthetically pleasing and what is going to look best. So instead of just coming to us with an idea of how many tiers you want, be open to listen to the options that we give. On to the second thing that drives us a little crazy. And this goes in tandem with the first reason, and that is when people want to order a cake by size. So people will come to us and say, I want a 10-inch cake. Why do you want a 10-inch cake? Like, is it because you think it's going to serve a certain amount of people? A lot of times people think that a 10-inch cake is going to feed 10 people, and it feeds about 30 to 35 people or so. Now, I talked about this in another recent video, and somebody commented and said, why is it that we decide how many servings are in a cake? If a customer wants to say a 10-inch cake feeds 10 people, why isn't that okay? The reason being, I go by the Wilton cake serving chart, which is pretty much industry standard. Now, I have modified it to my liking, and I will link that below. But there has to be a standard serving size. Yes, you can cut a huge piece of cake, but just because it's 1 piece of cake doesn't mean it's not 4 servings. And I liken it to a bag of Doritos. So a couple weeks ago, I ate an entire huge bag of Doritos by myself when I was at a party. Not my proudest moment. So at that moment, that entire bag was 1 serving. And then when I flipped it over and I read the back that it was 9 or 10 servings and it was probably like 1,400 calories in the entire bag, I really regretted my decision. So just because I ate the entire bag myself doesn't mean that it was 1 serving. And that's how I relate it to cakes. There is a standard serving size slice, and that's what our servings are based on. So if you want to have a cake or have extra cake left over, or if you want bigger slices, then you're going to want to order a cake with more servings than what you will need. On to number 3. And that is these last minute cake orders that are coming in. And I understand sometimes that we put together parties last minute, but recently I have been getting so many requests with 2 days in advance for a cake to feed 75 people. And I'm like, did we not plan this party well in advance that we knew that we had to get the cake? And yes, I understand sometimes a cake decorator will cancel on you, something happens and you need to get a cake. However, me personally, it is very difficult for me to make a last minute cake because I usually bake and freeze my cakes about a week prior, and then I fill them and frost them and decorate them. So when I'm in the decorating process, for me to get out all of my stuff and start baking again and start that process all over, it just doesn't really work with my schedule. So I usually don't take on last minute cake orders. So I wish I could put a public service announcement out there for everyone to at least get your cake orders in 10 days to 2 weeks in advance. That way you can ensure that you can get into somebody's book. On to the fourth thing that people do that drive us a little crazy. And that is what people are trying to do some Jedi mind tricks with us. When people order and they say, I just need a small cake. And in their mind, I think they're trying to let us know it shouldn't be expensive. It's just going to be small. And in turn, the cake is supposed to be 30 servings and extremely detailed. But because you said it was small, you're trying to play like some mind games with us and we're on to you. But just because you say that it is a small cake doesn't mean that it's a small cake. A small cake is a 6-inch cake. And even at that, I have done some 6-inch cakes that have a lot of detail that cost way more than a 2-tiered cake. So if people are trying to get something that is a little lower in price, what I do, I usually give 3 different options when I'm quoting cakes. Something that's a simple design, something that's a mid-level design, and something that is really detailed, and let them choose. But just because you say that it's a small cake, it doesn't mean that it's not going to take a while to complete. On to number 5. And that is when random people, even friends and family, will just expect us as custom cake decorators to make your cake at a discount or for free. And I have a few things to say about this. While people are just starting out, and I did this when I was first starting, I used to make cakes for my friends' kids, for baby showers. I just wanted to be able to make the cakes for these parties so I can get the experience and so I can help them out. So I didn't charge. I did a lot of free cakes and a lot of discounted cakes. However, as custom cake decorators, we are purchasing everything, the supplies, the ingredients. We are spending so much time making these cakes, and if we end up making them at a discount or for free, we are losing money. And I always say this, the people who are ordering these cakes from us would never work for free or at a deep discount at their job. When you go to work, you expect to get paid fairly, compensated fairly for your time, and we do as well. Just because we work from home doesn't mean that we are not working on your cake for 8 to 10 hours and investing all this time and money into your cake. Now, I totally understand if people want to get a cheap cake, you want to go to Costco or the grocery store. A custom cake takes way longer to make than those mass-produced cakes that you will get at the grocery store. On to number 6. And that is when somebody gives us a picture like this and says, I don't want any fondant on the cake. I want it to be all buttercream. Now, I don't know about you, but I am not some kind of wizard that can just whip up these amazing buttercream decorations. Is it possible? Yes, there are some people who are really good with buttercream. However, there are just some things that need to be made out of fondant that is just going to look so much better. It's going to be cleaner. It's going to hold up better. It's not going to melt in the heat. And I don't understand what the big deal is. Me personally, I never eat fondant. I don't like the chewy texture while I'm eating the cake. So what I do is if I have a piece of cake that has fondant on it, I will eat the cake and the icing and just leave the fondant on the plate. And a lot of people argue that that is very wasteful. However, I liken it to kale and lemon garnish on your plate. It is more of a garnish. It makes the cake look pretty. We don't sit there and eat the kale and the lemon and all of the little pretty things that are arranged on the plate. You just eat the steak and the potatoes. Now, some people might eat the garnish, and that is fine, but you don't have to eat the fondant decorations. And I have had people who wanted, I'll put a picture of a cake over here. She wanted an all buttercream cake, but I said to her, I'm going to have to do some things out of fondant. The name was out of fondant, the little top brim of the flower pot, and there were a couple other things that were out of fondant, but the rest of it is buttercream. So I said you could just peel off those pieces before you serve the cake and then cut it and serve it. On to number 7. And I've said this in videos before, and that is when people want to ruin your custom cake by putting a long run-on sentence on there saying, happy birthday, we love you so much, Julie, we hope you have a great year. Like, ugh. All right. My thing is, we are at a party for Julie. We know this cake is for Julie's birthday. It doesn't have to have these sentences on it and say all these things. A lot of times it will ruin the look of a custom cake. I like to save phrases or writing on a cake for something like a sheet cake, or to put it on a little banner that you have at the bottom that it doesn't ruin the design. But just to write on a cake, I feel like it's an old school way. It's an old school thought process. That's what we did back in the day. But now when we are spending all of this time creating this beautiful design, you don't want to just ruin it by just writing something on the cake. And I totally understand if you want a message on the cake, but like I said, let's put it on a little banner at the bottom instead. The 8th thing that people do that drive us cake decorators a little crazy is when you come to pick up your cake and your car is filthy. And look, no judgment. People's lives are busy and your cars may be filthy, but you know you're coming to pick up a cake. There needs to be a space for the cake to sit. Now, I do wrap up the cake, so it's okay if your car is dirty, but we need to be able to put it on the floor. If it goes on the seat, seats have a slant to them. So you do not want to put your cake on a seat where it's going to sit this way. It needs to be propped up a little bit. And I always send out a whole information sheet letting people know how their car needs to be, but nobody reads, like nobody cares. But there needs to be a space in your car for the cake when you pick it up. And also, there's a lot of times when people come to pick up the cake in the hot months where there is no air conditioning in the car. You're picking up a cake that the icing is made of butter and it is going to melt so quickly if you do not keep it cold. So me personally, my house is freezing in the summer. When I deliver a cake, my car is freezing. I'm wearing sweatshirts. It's more important to keep the cake as cold as possible. The 9th thing that people may do that drive us cake decorators a little crazy is the CakeZilla. All right? It's when people want to call, text, they won't leave us alone talking about their cake. And yes, I understand that you can be excited about your cake and you want it to look right, but there's a degree of trust that you need to have in your cake decorator. And if you're trying to control every single aspect of the cake, you are sucking all the fun out of it. Like, we love to do this because we love cake decorating and it's so much fun and something that we're passionate about. But when somebody is constantly nagging us about every little detail on the cake, it's just not fun. It makes me second guess everything that I'm doing. I think you're not going to like anything. And I don't know about you, but my mindset is so important in the outcome of my cakes. So if I'm not having fun when I'm making your cake, and if I'm worried about every little thing, I just don't want to take those orders, because I feel like no matter what I come up with, you're not going to be happy with it. We as cake decorators need to be able to have some kind of creative control over the cake, where we can shift something if we think that it's going to look better in a different spot, or do some kind of different border or texture or font or whatever we think is going to look more cohesive with the design. So usually if I feel that somebody is acting that way, I will let them know that unfortunately I don't think that we are a match and I'm not going to be able to execute your design the way that you want it to be. And I try to refer the order out. And the 10th thing that drives us cake decorators a little crazy is when people try to talk you into doing designs that you don't want to do. And look, you don't really know what you like and what you don't like until you try it. But I'm telling you, and I've said this before in other videos, I made a 3D Philly Fanatic before, and I wanted to punch him in the face and then throw it out the window. It was a nightmare. I just hated making it. And sometimes people will ask me to do something like that, and I will try to reject them. And they say, I've seen your work. Your work is amazing. I know you can do it. No, I don't want to do it. I might be able to do it, but I'm not going to have any fun. It's just like that whole CakeZilla thing. If I don't have fun, or if I'm not into the cake that I'm making, it's not going to turn out right. So what I usually do is let people know what I can do instead with that same theme. Maybe it would be a 2-dimensional decoration or some edible images, but I would give them an option and let them know what I can do and let them make their decision. So there's my list of 10 things that can drive us cake decorators a little crazy. What did I miss on this list? What happens to you, or what kind of requests do you get that drive you a little insane? I would love to know. Leave it in the comments below. And just a reminder, I do have a Cake Academy membership program where I can help you elevate your cakes to the next level. All of that information is listed in the description. Please like this video if you liked it, and if you're enjoying my tutorials, I would be so grateful if you could buy me a coffee. My link is down below. And I would love it if you would keep in touch on socials, and you could check out my website. And if you want to stick around, you can watch this video next, and hit subscribe and the bell if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. And remember, it's cake. Have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.